Let's refocus now. Thousands of Israelis are back on the streets calling for fresh elections in the country. It marks a fresh wave of anti-government protests after Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dissolved the war cabinet. Large crowds rallied outside the Knesset before marching towards Netanyahu's private apartment in the city. Protesters clashed with police forces. Several were arrested in the process, but the demonstrations only got bigger in the later half of the day, with many waving Israeli flags and holding up posters criticizing Netanyahu for a series of policy shifts. We'll do the anchor link for...
Process of the Israeli country will start here. It started last week when Benny Gantz and Eisenkot left the coalition. We are continuing this process, and hopefully this government will resign soon. As if it won't resign, Israel will not survive.
Hope that the Israeli people will come in hundreds of thousands to say enough to the Israeli government, to Netanyahu, and hopefully this is the day that we will start the change from the destruction that Netanyahu made to a revolution, and then to revive the Israeli society and the Israeli people.
The latest wave of demonstrations calling for Netanyahu to quit and hold fresh polls has pushed the leader back into a corner. The protests come at a crucial juncture, with Israel's centrist leader Benny Gantz quitting the war cabinet just a few days ago. While ultra-nationalist and far-right leaders like Ben-Gvir demanded a position in the cabinet, Netanyahu chose to dissolve it instead. But despite the protests, Prime Minister Netanyahu's party is in a comfortable majority in the parliament. Netanyahu says he has Israel's best interest in mind. The question remains, how long will the leader be able to sustain growing dissent in the country from his own people, with many accusing him of putting his political interests before the country. Now, correspondent Jody Cohen has more on this from Israel.
Anti-government protesters have been calling for elections, blocking some major highways, and several were arrested for breaking through barricades outside the home of the Prime Minister. The new Labour Party head Yair Golan has said that if early elections aren't called, protesters will force them. Recent polls have suggested that Benny Gantz is preferred as the next Prime Minister, while some polls suggest Netanyahu again. Gantz left the coalition, remember, because he believes that Netanyahu doesn't have a strategy for post-war Gaza, and some commentators suggest that Netanyahu dissolved the war cabinet in order to avoid replacing Gantz with the ultra-nationalist party heads. Meanwhile, the new Palestinian poll has shown that 67% of the Palestinians support Hamas's 7th of October attack against Israel, and that if an election were to be held in the West Bank and Gaza today, Hamas would win. This is Jody Cohen for WION World as One.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.